Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Podcast for the Universe, Energy is Love podcast. Last week marked our 1-year anniversary of the podcast, and I can't thank everybody enough for support over the past year. It's been amazing. It's been a wonderful experience, beautiful journey. I've absolutely loved doing the show. Thank you to everybody that's been on as a guest. Thank you to everybody that has gone out and subscribed and supported the podcast over this past year. It's been an amazing journey. Remember, you can go find everything and follow us everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio. I think that's about it. No, there's more out there, but go to our website, energieslovepodcast.com, find all of our information there and share it. Remember, share it with a friend. Tell somebody about the podcast so they can listen and enjoy and benefit from all these wonderful, wonderful interviews. This episode is brought to you by As Above, So Below. As Above, So Below is located in Roy, Utah. It's an amazing metaphysical shop that has anything and everything you could possibly imagine for your spiritual journey, for your path into enlightenment, for your path down that windy, twisty road of life, and all the things that can enhance and grow and benefit you as a person, mind, body, spirit, soul, all that kind of good stuff. You can find it at As Above, So Below. Coming up on June 4th, As Above, So Below is going to be hosting the Summer Witch Fest. It's going to be a big festival right there at the shop with a bunch of different readers, healers, practitioners, all sorts of different things. All-day event. I believe it's running from 10 to 8, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity to come and check out the shop, as well as get some wonderful benefits from all the people there. We're also going to be there with the podcast that day, June 4th, 1 p.m. We're going to be recording another live episode with Lady Luna. So that's going to be a lot of fun. If you are in the area, if you live up in northern Utah or anywhere in Utah for that matter, make a point to stop by and say hello. Come and sit in on the podcast as it happens. And if you are one of our many listeners all across the world, make sure you mark your calendars. Like I said, 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you go to our website, energieslovepodcast.com, up at the top there's a banner. Click on the banner. It's going to take you to the event page for that live episode. You can follow, stay up to date, all that kind of good stuff. June 4th, As Above, So Below, 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. This episode is also brought to you by Entheozen. That's entheozen.com. Nutritional solutions for balancing the mind and body. Entheozen was started back in 2014 by Caitlin Thompson. She's a neurobiologist who is struggling with her own depression and anxiety. All the ingredients in Entheozen products have been scientifically studied and contain premium active forms of vitamins and minerals, which are there to ensure bioavailability and maximum absorption. Their products are tailored towards mood enhancement and stress support. They also have a product called Weekend Warrior, which is a party recovery formula. So if you go to the website, once again, entheozen.com, you can find all of their products as well as more information about Caitlin and some of the educational outreach workshops that Entheozen hosts. You can also find all their products on Amazon. Just search out Entheozen and it'll take you right to it. Whether you're purchasing through the website or on Amazon, make sure you enter the promo code ENERGYIS. That's going to save you 10% off your total purchase. Entheozen.com. On today's episode number 82, I got a chance to sit down and chat with Chelsey Ott of Wired and Stoned. If you've never heard of Wired and Stoned, go to their website. It's getwiredandstoned.com. You can also find them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. They've got a wonderful YouTube channel, lots of followers. They do really amazing stuff. So Chelsey and her man Joshua founded Wired and Stoned. Originally, they were focused on crystal wrapping and teaching people how to crystal wrap, selling some of their wares, all that kind of stuff. But it expanded and grew into dreadlock making as well as care for your dreadlocks. They empower people through art. They do a lot of different really fun things. And they're continuing to kind of flow and expand with their business. So Chelsey was a wonderful guest. We got into a lot of different things during the episode. She was a lot of fun to chat with. It's kind of funny. One of the things that we started chatting about right off the bat was sacred geometry. And so you kind of get our take, both of our takes on the whole concept and idea behind sacred geometry. So it's a lot of fun. Remember, go check them out at getwiredandstoned.com. And then also check them out on Instagram. That's really probably the best way to follow them. They have a lot of really cool stuff that they do through Instagram. And like I said, their YouTube channel and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode. Chelsey's got a promo code that she throws out for listeners. It's going to save you some cash when you go to getwiredandstoned.com. But for now, thank you very much, Chelsey, for being on the podcast. And you guys get to sit back and relax, turn it up, and tune in and listen to the Podcast for the Universe with Chelsey Ott. Here we go.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The podcast for the universe.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Okay, Chelsey, we're up.
Okay.
We're ready. Thank you very much for coming. And well, you didn't come. I came to you. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I very, very much appreciate it.
I appreciate it. This is my first real podcast.
Yeah, this is a real podcast.
This is real. Yeah.
When I first started, I used to think like, it's just something fun that I did in the beginning, but it's a real podcast. So yeah. I have a question.
What is it?
Right off the bat.
Okay.
We were just chatting before we pushed record, and you mentioned your guys's. It's not insignia. It's not label.
Logo.
That's the word I'm looking for. So it's Metatron's cube at the core of it, and you said that you guys picked it, not really knowing initially in the beginning what it was, but you had some sort of. How did you come across it? How did you find it?
I had seen sacred geometry around, so I was familiar with the different designs, but I didn't know the meaning behind each one of them really, other than flower of life, the typical one. But I had just felt a prompting. I have all these, what I call knowings, which is just like a message of like affirmation directly given to me. And it's just like, that needed to be the logo. So I chose it. And then down the road, looked up the meaning and found out that how it applied to our business, Wired and Stoned, is it was all of the geometric shapes overlaid on top of each other, which crystals are a whole bunch of geometric shapes. And so it was like, oh, this is like all of the crystals in one. How perfect, How did you choose it? Because, guys, we have the same logo.
Yeah, we do, which is awesome. It's cool. For me, when I found Metatron's cube, it started to come through in meditation and through a bunch of different things where I was in, over a series or a course of, I don't even remember how long it was because it happened a long time ago. I had all these sorts of like visions and insights and all this sacred geometry type shit that was coming, and I couldn't make sense of it. So I sat down and started to draw and started to try to recreate it on paper. And I'm terrible when it comes to, I'm a pretty good artist, but when it comes to like, straight lines and straight circles, and circles aren't straight, but I did a terrible job at it. But I got enough of it done that I'm looking at it and I'm like, what happened? Because I don't even think I knew, I'm trying to remember because it was a long time ago. I don't even think I knew what Metatron's cube was, but I drew that. And then we held on to it for a while. I'd say we, because my wife, I told her all about it and she looked at it and she didn't recognize it or it didn't stand out to her. And then I came across Metatron's cube and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this is what I drew. And so it was really, really close. And then. So
you had drawn it just from your own visions?
Yeah, just from like meditation. And,
right.
Do you know what I mean? Because I'll a lot of times when I go into meditation, sometimes it's just relaxation and it's just clarity and it's just the opportunity to disconnect. But then there's other times when it's super deep and you get into that space and all sorts of shit starts coming.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite. And so it was during those time periods. And then not long after that, I had a good friend of mine that kind of did a reading for me, and she came out of it and she's like, yeah, you got Metatron on your left side. I'm like, okay. So everything kind of started to make sense. And then when it came time to do the podcast, it was pretty self-explanatory for me.
So how do you explain sacred geometry to people who don't know anything about it?
I do it terribly.
Yeah, we all do. It is so hard. There's a video by Spirit Science. It's like a whole hour long trying to just explain it. But what's your direct delivery? What do you say?
I'm not good at it. When I say that, I'm not incredibly well versed when it comes to sacred geometry. It plays a very important part in my life, in this space when I go out there into the universe and dance around and all that kind of shit. I see it very clearly. I see it represented in a lot of different things. But when I try to explain it to somebody, at the core of it, I think that it's like one of the building blocks of the foundation of the energy that does exist and connects us all. And it is geometrical. That's not a word. It is
geometric. Right?
Yeah. It's geometric and, and there's math and I do a terrible job, but if you can understand some concept of geometry or math or, do you know what I mean, simple 2 + 2, and see how that can expand in the way that math works and science works, then you can see how it can be integrated into spirituality and the universe and the cosmos and all that kind of stuff.
I find that when I'm doing dreadlocks on people, it tends to be like an initiation to their spiritual path in a lot of ways.
Really?
And they'll see the sacred geometry around my house, or we'll just bring it up in conversation because we're sitting there for like 20 hours at a time. So it'll come up. But I usually just be like, so are you familiar with sacred geometry? And they're like, no. And I go, okay. And here's kind of the delivery that I give. And I try to zoom in small. I say, so you know how like seashells have this spiral to them? That is an example of sacred geometry. It is, the golden ratio, which overlays in a ton of things in nature. And if you divide that mathematically, it actually is an equation that applies to all these different math things. Now, there's also different patterns that come together and that people actually will see when they're dying or having near-death experiences or meditating or dreaming or on psychedelics. It's really interesting because it's across the board. People will see these same visions and patterns, and we don't know why, but we know it's all over nature. And then I accidentally go, and there's like etchings on stones that are like way prehistoric that are perfect, that potentially aliens came down to, and giving us a formula for free energy that if you actually, and then I get a little like, I lose them. I lose them. Yeah. But I basically say that there's a big conspiracy behind sacred geometry because it goes really far back. There's freaking crop circle things, which as soon as I bring that up, I lose people as well. But if you'll look at some of the occurrences, one of my favorite documentaries is Thrive. And it's on YouTube. It's like 2 or 3 hours long. Mm-hmm. It's so heavy. You have to do it in doses. But that helped me like break down sacred geometry, but also it blew my mind too much.
Even looking at, the simplest thing to look at is the freaking pyramids, right? Mm-hmm. Where, and the way that people have picked apart and dissected and defined and studied the shape behind the pyramid, the mathematical equations that you can draw, all the things that equal. And it's just fascinating. So that's the easiest thing, I think, for a lot of times for people to start going back and looking. But yeah, once you go down that rabbit hole, like it's deep.
It's deep.
There's so many things.
But you can, it's kind of a sign of spirituality in someone. If you see somebody with sacred geometry on their body, you know that they're, quote, woke. You know what I mean? That term. Have you heard that term? Yeah. I love it. It's funny.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also too that like anything else, it gets misused and misrepresented. And,
for sure.
Do you know what I mean? All that other kind of stuff.
Like, is it okay that we chose it for our logos? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Whatever. Yeah. We know we didn't rip it off. Who's the original artist? That's what's interesting. People just channeled it and put it down, and we all see it. Somebody just was able to grasp it perfectly. And you remind me of my fiance, my partner, how he would get obsessed with like perfecting these perfect like designs with circles and lines, and it eventually would be the sacred geometry because that's just what it ends up when you put the design together.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Like there's times I haven't painted in a while, but I like to just sit and paint, and it's always abstract weird stuff, but undoubtedly in the end there's always I can, maybe not everybody can, but I can look at it and see the interconnected pieces and parts that make up that painting or whatever.
What I kind of summarize it with new people is not to blow your mind, but it's sort of like God, like the God equation. It's what makes nature happen. It's what makes us exist. Like the mathematic ratio is how it all works, So as far as like the solar system, the way that the planets are spaced apart, do you know how that like fits into the sacred geometry? It's like, how does it go from as small as a cell to as big as the universe? Oh, I get so lost. My goal is to get succinct in my delivery of that one day. Maybe I'll make a YouTube video that.
Yeah.
How did you find us, by the way, on YouTube?
No, I think I found you guys on Instagram at first.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I came across you on Instagram and then went and looked at all your shit, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and they're in Utah, so
perfect.
It was a win-win for me.
You caught us at a good time because I'm about to fly to Hawaii for a while.
Yeah, tell me about the whole thing. Like, what the hell? What do you guys? Tell me a little bit about what's your fiance's name, your partner's name?
His real life name is Joshua.
Joshua. Mm-hmm. And how long have you guys been together?
Almost 5 years now, but that's how long we've been in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And just partnering up, really.
I was really hoping that, and lucked out he's not here. He's in, where did you say? He's in California.
He's in
right
Northern
now?
California right now.
California right now. What exactly, when you guys, because you've got Wired and Stoned, what else do you guys have going on right now?
Okay, so we were ready to like level up from Wired and Stoned because we went to a business guy who kind of was like, I see crystals and dreadlocks with Wired and Stoned. What do you guys want to portray? And we were like, empowering artists, helping them make a living off their love, making it so they don't ever have to have a job again. And he's like, that's not what I see with Wired and Stoned. And we were like, okay, well, so then we started Spirit Offerings. We started formulating the course where we teach people how to first find what they're good at, and then how to basically get it out there, how to do all the steps until it's basically a full functioning business without them involved, basically off of their creatings. So creations, so we were working on that and then realized, holy cow, we've only actually done half of what we're trying to teach. We haven't got to phase 2, and we don't want to just abandon Wired and Stoned and leave it just like, eh. So we put Spirit Offerings on hold. And so that's like in waiting for us to learn more personally and throughout Wired and Stoned as a business to be able to teach people how to do it. So right now, Wired and Stoned is basically dreadlocks, inspiration, just like a little community of brewing creativity. And we kind of joke that it's the gateway to your spirituality. We like to joke gateway drug, like because it kind of has connotations of marijuana with Wired and Stoned. And there's a lot of younger people who really don't have much exposure to a lot of the stuff we talk about, or we may be the only people they feel comfortable talking about it with. So we find ourselves educating a lot of people and just kind of normalizing the hippie life or answering the questions that people just assume,
You have this business, you have this thing that you're trying to do, create this community, create this thing and make it grow, right? How have you guys found, because I find this so fascinating. I talk to a lot of people on the podcast that do, that are trying to run and operate and have fully functional businesses that they can reach the masses with and help change the planet and all these beautiful things. And it's good stuff. But I think sometimes in the realm of spirituality and the New Age community and all that other kind of stuff that people get involved in, we just want to sit around and manifest it. We just want to sit around and meditate about it.
What we call it is process.
Yeah.
Really get stuck in the process and never actually show up to deliver the goods, or not knowing how to get those goods delivered, like you're ready to show up with them, but now how to share. So we, especially Joshua, he is so into learning about how to be successful because he wants to be happy and he has it in him. So he literally geeks out on like the newest ways to run a business, what to do with social media, what to do to have a viral video. He learns these things all day, every day. And we're compiling that to give to people so that artists can keep being artists and then maybe show up for like a couple hour courses to give them the tools. But you do have to show up still. You have to have that determination. And it's hard. If you want to be somebody sharing your vision with the world, you do have to show up a lot. You can't just be visionary all the time. There's work, but we want to help people like bridge all those gaps and not have to do all the studying themselves and all the finding and all the failing. We've done a lot of trial and error.
It's practice, right?
Right. And learning. Every failure is, I don't even like the word failure. Like, what is that? It's simply a chapter or whatever. But anytime you make a mistake, it's like, yes, opportunity to learn. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn like applicable information. Unfortunately, that's how I live my life, is making mistakes to learn. And people who live around me get frustrated because I can't just take advice on learn. Some people do, I guess. Well, anyway.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. I think that failure process, that thing where you try something and it doesn't work, I think it's so massively important. I think for me personally, I agree. I don't even think failure is really a thing. I don't think it exists. I don't think that we fail at anything that we do. I think everything that we do in life, from brushing our teeth to running a successful business to having, long-term happy relationships, all of it is just simply practice. Life in general is just a practice. So we have to practice more, and that's all that it is.
And everything that goes wrong or that you would perceive as a failure is just like leading you to the next step with more wisdom and grace. Really, it's for your spiritual progress and growth, and it will lead you where you're meant to be, and hopefully you learn from the lesson. The problem with failure is when people don't learn from the lessons and they continue the same patterns. But yeah, every quote failure I've ever had would just be something that led to something new that was better. The issue is not letting your ego be too embarrassed to like show your face again for another venture, because I mean, just a lot of people don't want to show up and fail and be embarrassed. It's the embarrassment, it's the ego, it's the looking stupid. And if you can just allow yourself to look stupid a few times, you get over it, and then you live your dreams.
Yeah, and then every time after that you look stupid, you don't realize it. So it's no big deal.
Or you don't care. It doesn't affect you. It just passes through you. And then the people who are like, wait, I'm trying to project that you look stupid and it's not affecting you, suddenly they just don't care to think about you being stupid anymore. Oh my gosh, this just brought back this idea I had last night that I want to talk about. Okay, guys. So I have this idea. Sorry, I talk to an audience all the time. This is how I've always been. Even before I had an audience, my phone like recording.
Do you ever talk to yourself?
Oh, of course. But now it ends up on social media when I talk to myself. But so this idea, about people want to talk about how stupid you are you feeling stupid. What if, say, Instagram or social media added a function where people can gossip behind your back? Like, think how many people out there have accounts that people just want to talk crap on them, but are like not, and they stalk them, but never show love or comment. They just want to. Imagine now there's this like secret place where people can come together to talk bad about you. I feel like social media would explode in activity and you wouldn't even know it's happening. It made me feel so evil to have this thought. What would be
the purpose of it though? Because it's very evil. Like
it would be to fulfill people. The reason that I started thinking about this is I have a friend on Facebook who she's like in charge of this sisterhood community that's private and it's grown really big. Few people have gotten kicked out because they don't bring the right vibes. They went and started like a hate group about her, and it's growing and growing. And she says that she has a friend who's in it, and she'll like update her when it's like really brewing. And she says that she'll notice it's when she's having the best days of her life, that group of haters will be brewing the most. And it's just like, she's luckily so leveled up that it's not truly like affecting her, but except empowering her more,
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting to see that, she's having a wonderful, beautiful day, and then
they feel that.
Yeah.
They want to bash that, but it's not even getting to her, which it's private. But that energy in the air, it's like, that's how come when you are more successful, you have more haters. And I really struggled with haters at first on YouTube. There would be the nastiest comments, like a couple death threats. But I cried a few times and I was called ugly and other things. But then I eventually was like, okay. Like, I tried to turn off the notifications and couldn't. They came to my freaking phone and I wanted to answer the questions involved. But eventually I was like, these people that are coming to talk crap are paying my bills.
Yeah.
Because every time they come to comment is another view on YouTube that sends me a penny or something. And you can just feel empowered by that and just let it brush off. But it does take you like growing a thick shell. Well,
it's like everything, right? It's helping you on the process of your evolution and the way that you respond outside. And because the fact is, there's that huge thing online where people are just trolling, like they're just out there trying to engage in people that are either have big followings or they're celebrities online or whatever the case may be, simply so that they get some sort of feedback, some sort of recognition, even when it's negative. And then you get into that whole dynamic where they want to sit there and talk shit back and forth with one another, and it just spins and spins and spins.
No thanks.
But I think it's always very, very reflective, obviously, of what that individual person is feeling, thinking, and how they really view themselves and their place in the world.
I don't like that vibe. Why would you want that icky energy around you? I try to have my social media feel like I could have that be my resume. Like, anybody who's potentially going to hire me can go stalk my social media and be like, yes. If you're a brewer and a stewer and you want to have all this crap talking happening, that's not reflecting good on you as a person. Nobody wants to be around that. Other than miserable people as well. You work to let the light in and shine it back onto the darkness that wants to get in, and those haters, and just realize they're suffering. They're suffering, really. If you're like talking crap on other people, it's because you're suffering.
No, most definitely. How big of a role has social media played for you guys in regards to everything that you do?
Oh my gosh, it's made everything happen. I wasn't planning this at all. We simply started wire wrapping crystals because we wanted to wear them. And then our friends and family liked them and encouraged us to sell them. And so we made an Instagram account, Wired and Stoned, just came up with it. It was available. And then slowly started growing the Instagram. Made a club for members on how to wire wrap. And we eventually put some of those videos on YouTube for fun. They didn't do well or anything. And then I did my own dreadlocks. And I started doing a friend's dreads. And people kept asking me, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you do it? I made a video. I said to my partner, let's make a how-to video so that I don't have to tell people anymore. I can direct them to the video. And he's like, okay, then I'm going to actually learn how to do dreads then. And about 5 minutes before we filmed, he taught me the correct way. And that's the video we made that went viral. And it has like 1.5 million hits now. And through that, people kept requesting more dreadlock tutorials. So I just kept answering all the questions I could so that I wouldn't have to do it verbally with my own energy more than once. It's like, I'll direct you to these videos. I want to help everybody have good dreads because I did it wrong for a while. I see people doing it wrong. Let's just help people do it right. And then, I started making my own dread products, and then I made a video about that. And then we have one video about that, and that's now how we basically pay our bills, is through selling dreadlock oils. And so it's all YouTube, all Instagram.
It's not where you started initially with the intention though, right?
Not at all. No, we started wire wrapping, and now we don't have anything to do with that. We actually, one of our Crystal Club members who was in it for like a whole year, paid every month to learn wire wrapping. She was so awesome. She lives nearby. We've hired her. So now she's our wire wrapper, and we kind of just outsource different parts of the business to different friends. We have workshops we teach, and if we can't show up, our friends go and teach it for us. And we want to grow our community and ideally like train people around the world to wire wrap and do different art crafts and like dreadlocks so well that they can teach wired and stone workshops for us.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good vision. But I think it's neat. The part that really stands out to me is starting with an idea and then having it morph and change into something almost completely different from what you originally thought, right?
Yes. And every role you step into will play a part of your life. And that's something I remind people is like, just because you can do photography, you don't have to be a photographer. I was a photographer for years, and it never resonated enough for me to really push it. I simply had a page where I would put my stuff and work word of mouth. But it became a part of wire wrapping because I had to shoot my product to post it. And then wire wrapping, I didn't want to be a wire wrapper for my whole life. And now I feel like that's funny that I thought that that's what would happen or something, So who knows even where I'll be next year. And every year is a new adventure for Wired and Stone.
So how do you manage having something that initially you think is going to be a great idea, and you're going to invest a bunch of time and energy and passion into it, and then having it slowly shift and change? Like, do you struggle in that space of letting go what you thought this was going to be and letting it evolve into something else? Or
I have great answers for that.
Okay.
First, don't make inventory ahead of time. Make custom orders, and don't have stuff that you put time into that you can't sell and then end up clearancing out and spamming people with your art. You have to build your style and your value slowly over time. A good way to start is bridging the gap from like a real full-time job by starting to do your art on the weekends, to at least find your style or what you're doing. And basically you can do like a test market with Instagram by posting photos for free, using hashtags, building a community, seeing what it would sell for, and you can get your direction there. And then there was the second one. I knew I was going to lose him. But what was even the question?
Like, how do you, because I think this happens all the time.
I remember documenting the journey. If you include your followers or your tribe or your supporters, your customers on what you're going through, then it's so fun to transition. People get excited. It's not so much like you're committed to this old relationship you've grown out of that you like have to all of a sudden come out and be like, you guys, we broke up. But hopefully you support me when I start dating a new guy. You know what I mean? It's like you show everybody what's happening and you get feedback and your own spiritual growth will determine your path. And you just need to, for me, I can't really plan ahead. Some people are real sticklers for planning. If I just go day by day, it feels really good.
How do you let go of it though? Like that's the thing. I think that a lot of times people create something, like entrepreneurs or people that
Right.
are wanting to start to do something. How do you let go of that passion that initially you put so much into?
Imagine a baby and they grow up into a person. How do you let go of that baby?
I have an 18-year-old and it's damn hard.
Well, that baby is inside of that 18-year-old still. And you see it and you know how that 18-year-old started, but it's become its own thing. And you appreciate it a ton more than the baby. It's way more complex. It can communicate. It has outreach. It's not just this beautiful little thing to look at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. The other thing I wanted to ask you about it, that the whole dynamic of, something that you start and the way that it shifts and evolves and changes. Do you have recognition, you think, or do you have a way or even an awareness during the process of it where you realize that things are starting to shift and change and move in a different direction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it would be when I feel less passionate about it. I used to love wire wrapping for people. I would show up with so much fervor and passion. And then it started to feel like a chore. And it's when it feels like a chore that you delegate. But delegating is so hard. So you can either delegate it to somebody else or level up from it. I want to go onto a tangent that I don't know if it relates to that question. Great. So a big thing to do when you start to feel like over your creation, or if you just say you're crocheting as your passion or building tables, you don't want to get stuck to where you're building tables every day to pay your bills, or that there's so many requests now that you have to make your price so high to narrow things down. You now teach in a video how to make tables and sell the supplies to make them. So now you're empowering people. They can still buy your product. It's expensive. You can still make it or have your team make it. And your team would be people who have previously learned how to make your product. And you know what I mean? So there's just all sorts of ways to still do your passion and be involved in it, but it grows like a garden with different aspects. And yeah, this is what Spirit Offerings is about. So it's cool you're asking me these questions, because we've basically asked ourselves all these 1,000 times, how would we overcome this obstacle? What would we advise this person? Or so there's a few that I don't really know how to advise people making music as much as other types of passions that you might embark on. But yeah. How much
crazy hippie spiritual shit do you incorporate into it? Not necessarily, you wire wrapped crystals, and obviously that's incredibly spiritual in a sense because of the power behind crystals and stones and everything like that. But in your own personal space of the movement of your businesses and the way that you approach things, how much spirituality do you bring to it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, however much naturally coincides. And that's something that we've noticed, we've talked about is when did your first crystal come into your life? Did you notice it synchronized with your spiritual journey? Yes. Or let's say marijuana, just going to throw that out there. Did that happen to synchronize with planting a seed for you wanting to find your spiritual journey? And then, so we started with crystals, but then that leads to using sage and Palo Santo for smudging for energy. And then you're talking about energy. And then you're talking about chakras and metaphysics, because that's how we would find what crystal is right for people, is okay, what do you need to work on fit energetically? And then we would basically diagnose what crystal is best for them. And then, it would just bring in, it would just naturally come about, and the dreadlocks, because I wanted dreads, and the festivals, well, because we wanted to go to festivals, and everything we make is because we love it. And that is the key to success, you guys. And that's something I love to preach, is do something because you love it first and then see where it goes. I made that dreadlocking video and now we're seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
I just started a thing on Instagram called #wired and selfied. Spirited selfie is another hashtag for it. But basically, I'm doing something for fun where I make people have awesome selfies. I do it for free because I love it, but I know it's going to go somewhere and it's going to bring people happiness. And so we'll see. But like, follow those teeny little promptings and then manifestation. Like, boom.
I think it's staying in that space of creation, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, like do what you love and then worry about all the other shit afterwards, right? We're not worried about how we're going to make money at it. We're not worried about the followers that we're going to get on YouTube or Instagram or whatever the case may be. It's just simply, what are you passionate about? And
that's the seed, yes. You need to plant the seed with the passion and then it will start to grow. And then you kind of have to start thinking about your social media and your website and your products, and because you want to grow. You don't want to stay a seed. And you need help and you need a community usually for that, or you need a ton of drive and focus in the business mindset, which is not what artists have usually. So when I meet an artist who's like young and thinking like, should I go to college or not? I'm like, really think on it. But if you do, go for business. Go for business if you're an artist, because you already got the art stuff down in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. You need help knowing how to run a business.
That's good advice.
Yeah. But,
what are you going to Hawaii for?
my own personal healing, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I've been feeling for a while just overwhelmed with life, and like I need a break to just not do all this stuff that I'm talking to you about. Traveling for dreads, doing dreads all the time, running the business. We've been focusing really hard in it so that it is pretty self-sustaining with just a few employees. And I basically found out my lease ended a month earlier than I was planning. So I was like, oh, here we go. What's my next move? Hawaii? I've talked about it multiple times. Let's just do it. I looked up a ticket. I was like, okay, that's affordable. So I let it brew for a few days while I reached out to a few organic farms on Facebook, one that Joshua had told me about that he had met that day. They never responded. But my friend, she was there at the time. She was posting it on Facebook. So we started a conversation and she hooked me up into the coolest community where it's isolated, like hours away from anybody. So you are just there with the community and nature, and you show up to like help the farm function, and then you just dive deep into your own practice. So I'm planning on writing a lot of music, documenting whatever it is that I am going through, because when I do that, it helps other people. And yeah.
Do you have a sense of what you're going through?
Do I have a sense of what I'm going through?
Like you said, documenting what you're going through. Granted, you're going to document your experiences there and everything like that. But you say life is crazy and you need a break from all the different things that you're, doing and working and all these other type of things. But do you have a sense of like deeper down the process that you're going through or what you're experiencing that you kind of not necessarily have to disconnect from, but
heal from?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am a very big feeler. I explore every feeling to the fullest, and throughout my adulthood, weird things have been coming up, and like crazy occurrences that have just brought up stuff that I gotta deal with. And I'm noticing a lot of people just don't ever deal with that stuff. Like some of the people closest to me that I like learned from, they choose to not dive deep into that pain or that suffering or that like root of what is making me act this way, or like why do I have such crappy personality traits sometimes? I want to know that. And if there's little inklings that pop up to give me a hint, I'm going to like really study that. And so I've been just basically having all of my childhood traumas come to the surface. And
isn't that wonderful?
I know. It's debilitating, but I know I'm going to be way better of a person after this chapter of my life that has been so messy. I respect you for going deep.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, and you talk about how people around you that you kind of learn from, in a sense, avoid it and don't want to deal with it.
Robot status is how I like to say.
What part of you do you feel like give me an idea of, we don't have to go all the way back into your childhood and your past and your upbringing or anything like that, but what part of you do you think is different enough where you want to move towards that stuff as opposed to away from it?
I want to live in my highest potential and feel as close to quote, God. And I say that in quotes because God for me is God is an idea for me more so. So I use it as like a title to just cover an overall feeling. But like, I want that feeling. I want to feel like I'm in touch with where I'm from and I'm channeling like you do when you meditate and see sacred geometry. Mm-hmm. I want to have that accessible in my life. I want to be able to reach extreme highs, but to have the discipline and the knowledge to not be balanced out with extreme lows. Some people choose to just not go extremely high and go extremely low. They stay very moderate. I'm not that type of person. So I need the tools to navigate. And that's basically what I'm on the journey for, is to find these tools.
But like, where's the awareness come? I think it's beautiful. Kudos to you. I think it's an exciting thing, right? It's nerve-wracking because it's almost like you have that awareness of, yes, there I'm going to have all these other wonderful experiences, but I also know that I'm going to end up facing some of this shit that I've been not thinking about, not dealing with, hiding from, stuff that you maybe even been unaware of. Exactly. That, wasn't even on your radar in a sense, that has been popping up lately, or whatever the case may be. What is it that, why do you have that desire? Or why do you have that awareness, even first and foremost, right? Where this is something that's lacking in me. Like, a lot of people don't even have the awareness of that they have to move through those emotions and through that stress and that trauma and all those type of things.
I think I would say I have experienced not being depressed, and I have experienced being depressed. And when I'm depressed, I guess I'm aware that there is another side, and I don't have to feel that way. And so it's just simply embarking on not being sad. And like, I stopped drinking alcohol. A lot of people drink alcohol instead of feeling sad. I had to explore and find tools to overcome sadness instead of distractions. So it's when you decide to stop distracting yourself with bad habits like drinking or eating unhealthy food or any addictions. It's basically when you give up any kind of addiction and call yourself out on your shit, that is when you have the motivation and the awareness to find a better life. And it comes in tiny, tiny doses. Like, you'll just first give up, your biggest addiction, but then you notice, oh, I'm actually addicted to sugar and media and validation and caffeine. And then you get those out of your life and then you're like, oh my gosh. Then you start to become sensitive to subtleties. And that is where you kind of screw yourself, because then you are so sensitive that you can't have gluten and dairy or you can't go to parties. Not necessarily you become anxious and allergic, but you become so aware of your sensitivities and your comfort that you don't want to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, like putting gluten in your body, because you notice that it makes you feel sick or swollen. You know what I mean? So did I get lost there?
No, you didn't get lost. You did a great job answering the question. And then I had one that I was going to ask that popped in my head. I'm going to see if I can remember it now. Gosh dang it.
Yeah, we get long-winded and cover up.
I think it's gone.
It'll come if it's meant to, but
I'm mad because it was a good one.
Okay, what did we talk about? We can retrace steps.
No,
they do that on Joe Rogan all the time. He's so good at that.
He is good at that. I get lost though.
Yeah.
I'm going to be pissed now for a minute because it was a good one. The way that you were talking about, the way you're describing that process of
facing instead of distracting.
Yeah. Well, awareness is the first part, right? Like, we can't face anything that we are completely oblivious to. And so having to have that awareness.
But then the missing part is the next step, because you'll have the awareness and then you'll have the knowledge of what to do. But in between that is the motivation. This is something that I talk about a lot, is if we could just find that, what could be the motivation for people? It needs to come from within, and usually it's rock bottom, they say. But it would be awesome if we can reach people in a way to be that motivation for change, so subtly and sweetly, how do we do that though?
It's hard. It's hard.
You just have to see people get to their rock bottom or their point of misery.
Sometimes you just kind of have to sit and watch it.
Or they're robots forever and just how they were raised and don't ever question society or conditioning. And
yeah. my question returned to me.
Yes, I knew it.
So you talked about addiction and all these other, easy ones are easy to recognize, right? Everybody's really, whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever the case may be. But then there are those other subtle ones, and you talked about validation and all these other type of things. Those are really important as well, and then recognizing what role they play in your life. Do you ever feel like spirituality, in a sense, can become an addiction, or have you ever experienced that where you want to stay lost in that space too much because you're using it to avoid the realities that you need to face?
Yeah, I would say that's called like stuck in the process and never really integrating. And integration is the hardest part of the spiritual journey, is having these knowings and then bringing them into real life and going forward with them, because you can get stuck in that like mystical world, but you have to apply it to real life so that you can bring the magic back and like pass it on to people. That's, I think, why we're all here, is to share our gifts so that we can inspire people, so that they can share their gifts and inspire people. And then we all feel fulfilled, and that's potentially the cure for depression. But still, we need to find like the motivation to share our gifts. And okay, this ties together, it's all based on our childhood and what we went through, what formed our personalities, and who told you you couldn't draw. Because guess what? You have a hand, you're a human, you can draw. Just do it for more than 20 minutes. And you're going to go through some icky feelings inside, like, I suck, I should stop. Oh my gosh, I like this, I should keep going. Oh, I ruined it, I suck. Everyone hates me, I hate myself, I suck, I should never do anything again. Holy cow, I love it. Oh my gosh, I want to share this with everybody. I'm going to put this, like just creating is such a journey for your soul. Just practice, and then share. And then keep on going forever. People don't get to the sharing part. People don't get to the integration part. So yes, spirituality can be an addiction. Your boyfriend can be an addiction. Anything that distracts you from feeling icky. I think you need to feel icky sometimes to finally not feel icky in the end.
Yeah, I think it's massively important.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you, because I had a couple of questions in the back of my mind. Joshua, that's his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remembered it correctly.
It's good. We have so many different names. It's hard.
No, you're good. Tell me about, because you guys have that idea, I suppose, maybe I'm wrong, but that you guys are destined to be together. That you guys have the twin flame aspect of your relationship. Am I correct, right?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what role we play for each other and for the world.
Let's hear it.
My role is to remind everybody they are an artist in whatever way. You are a creator. You are a human with hands. Make something and share it. And he is here to give you all of the tools to be successful sharing it so you can make a living. And I have come into his life and empowered his inner artist. He's come into my life and let that artist that was there become successful as an artist. So that is why we're here, is to help everybody do that. Because that's where happiness lies. That's where sunshine and joy radiates from everyone's faces when they are living themselves. They can show up to work as themselves, not as like this character that says, hello, welcome to McDonald's, can I take your order? For 8 hours in a row, 5 days in a row. That's not right for your spirit. Maybe while you're bridging the gap and working on your art at home, but...
You keep saying art, you keep referencing art.
Right.
And I'm assuming that you're not just talking about not writing, but drawing or painting, right? So the fact is, I think that when it comes to creation and finding what you're passionate about and what you can create, it can be anything.
Yeah. What is your art? Like, art for me is just something that is made that wasn't there before. Music, carpentry, a baby. I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, so there's people out there who don't think they're creative. There is something else they can show up and share. And even if it's just knowledge, they can document that knowledge and share it, like via social media.
Well, there's like artistry in what you can do, not necessarily what you can create. So you talk about like baby, right? You're going to create a baby. But there's artistry in parenting. Like there's people that are incredibly naturally good parents and have a skill set in that. And I think that's art form.
And they should document and share their art form so that people can become inspired by that.
Yes, most definitely.
And learn and grow. Yeah.
So back to the twin flame thing.
Okay.
I want you to tell me your take on it.
On twin flames in general?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I first learned about it, I was all excited because I was like, yay, soulmates, eeks, exciting romance, meant to be, obvious, easy love forever. No, it's opposite. Like, yes, you've met your partner to create a lot of things with and to completely transform yourself. You will be one thing and then you will be something else by the end of the relationship. A lot of people can't maintain a twin flame relationship for a whole lifetime because it's so transformational, because this person has shown up to challenge every single thing about you without even knowing it, and to introduce a whole other thing. So, you know, there are some relationships that aren't challenging and that don't push you. Those might not be the twin flame ones. The passionate ones where you fight like crazy and that you like clash, and those potentially are twin flamey because, well, they're meant to like challenge you and bring up all of your traumas so that you can overcome them and become your best self. Hopefully together, because then you'll probably raise an awesome child. You know what I mean? But the twin flame journey is just is one of transformation and losing your ego and like unconditional love, I guess, for yourself and for the other.
It takes practice, of course.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of practice under our belts, but it's constantly transforming. There's always new aspects of our relationship, just like a business that's growing. And it's amazing because we get to see our ripple effect, but it's heavy because we can feel our ripple effect.
You mean like the ripple effect of your work going out? Or
yeah,
what?
And our vibes in our relationship, and just feeling how like if we don't take care of ourselves and each other, then our business can't thrive. And when I say business, I more mean like our community, because it feels more like there are people there who want us to show up in our light, and we can't do that if we are not taking care of ourselves and doing the work. So we're always working on applying new practices, you know, and we need to be grateful that we do have the practices we do have. We're trying what we can. You need to acknowledge that in your life. Everybody out there needs to, you know, but always, you know, bring in those new practices. It's going to help you level up into the best version of yourself.
What's like your go-to thing if you're going to try to get reconnected? Like you finally have awareness of maybe you've been not out of control or anything like that, but just out of balance for the last little while, and you want to get back reconnected to that space where you feel imbalanced within yourself and the world around you.
For me specifically, over the past year, it's been playing music on my ukulele and singing. As soon as I start singing medicine music, I feel that meditation space, like the medicine space, God feeling like light around my body, totally connected to spirit when I'm singing medicine music. So that's my go-to. And I've been craving to do it like over the past week, but it's almost like if I'm busy with work and I have plans, I can't show up for the medicine music. So then it will finally need to be like where I have to spend a whole day doing it and documenting it and sharing it. So that's my go-to amongst other little rituals.
Do you see that expression of your creative art inside of you, that aspect of it? Do you see that going anywhere? Do you see that taking shape, or has it started to at least?
Yes. And one of my goals this year, and what might really take shape in Hawaii, is sharing my own artistic journey via the Golden Glow. That's my Instagram and Facebook, where I'm going to document the process of creation, like through all the mess of it, like writing a song where you don't know what you're doing and it's icky and ugly at first, and like doing a painting and how it looks like crap at first, and like documenting feeling, because I want to normalize the process so that other people can like go through it instead of feeling blocked, because it's not just about the end result or like making the art. It's about the therapy that you go through and like what you can, the self-love that you earn. And
I think it's beautiful. Like the idea that you're going to be documenting all of this and sharing all of this and sharing the aspects of it that aren't necessarily so pretty, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things, like a pet peeve of mine is, especially in the New Age community or in spirituality, you'll see things, you know, people online and the way that they represent themselves or their brand.
Too polished.
very, very polished because we have that same mentality of regular media, right? In the regular way that we consume things, and that has to look like that in order for us to consume it.
Mm-hmm.
If not, we're not going to place value on it. But then on top of their polished look of what they have, then they speak about authenticity and how important it is to be authentic in your life.
After their
and in
like
your
fifth
experiences.
take, right? And
Yeah.
they've memorized
And
the script.
It drives me so nuts. I think that, I gravitate towards so many more things that are unpolished, that you see, the little tiny imperfections, but yet the fact that they're, not that they're professional or that they have quality, or, yes, they have quality, but I think it goes so much further when you can see that other side of what people are doing and creating and working on top of what they put out, right? So here's the product in a sense, or here's what they're putting forth for you to consume, but you get to see all along the way of how they got to that point. And even the finished product itself, like, I think that if you can still manage to find that space where even the thing that you put out at the end still doesn't have that overly polished look, right? Like everybody, we can all go online and look at those websites from whether it's somebody that's a healer or somebody that's a coach or somebody that's in that space of helping people. And it looks so incredibly professionally done and polished. And that's great. But then at the end of the day, when you try to connect with that person or you try to have an interaction with that person and they've preached about being authentic and real and the importance of that, they're just fake as shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that drives me so nuts.
Yes. I think this is why we are successful, is because if you watch our YouTube videos, I leave in all of my mess ups because I don't really do multiple takes. Sometimes I will say it all once and then I'll do one other shot of me saying it all again. And then I choose the best one, but it's full of personality and kooks. And I think that people feeling like they get a sense of my soul, they feel like when they get our product, it has soul in it. That's why they spend so much money to buy it, is because they want to have a little piece of us. It's not because they want the thing. We teach them how to make the thing. It's in the videos. And we, go do that. It's cheaper. Go down the street, buy the stuff, make it.
Yeah.
But they don't want to.
Yeah. People don't want to put in the time and effort.
So if you can just put a little of your heart into your product, then that's really what people are paying for.
It's got to be that real heart, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like the real part of you. Like even the part, because I think a part of your heart is that darker stuff that you don't want to look at and that you don't want to deal with and that you don't want to process. And so it'll be really interesting to see what you do in that space.
Yeah.
Like in the next 6 months or year or whatever.
Right. Like one of my nicknames is Glow. And then sometimes I'm like, but I also want to be Shadow sometimes. So like that's another alter ego. And I really have a goal to be able to integrate the shadow and have that be, and that's kind of what the medicine music sharing is that's the end of like shadow work. And so you can always create something out of something, even if it's ucky, like recycle, upcycle.
I'm going to challenge you.
Okay.
Because you say integrate your shadow, right? You want to integrate that side of you into the light and bring it forth. I don't think you should integrate it. I think you should leave it there and not leave it there and ignore it, but let it be what it is. Let it exist in the space of it being dark and ugly and messy. And when you step into it and you process it and you move through it and you feel it, you're going to walk away better. It's going to be changed and transmuted in a sense, in some way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, it's a huge part of who you are. And so you don't want to get rid of it. You don't want to integrate it. You don't want to shed it. You don't want to let it be what it is. And then when you need practice in that space, it's still there and you can go and practice in it, because it's going to make this other side, right? The light or the glow or whatever it is, so much more and so much more profound.
I love that idea. We've been talking about this is the shadow needs a container.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me, let's imagine like, metaphorically, it has a room that it belongs in respectfully, and it's fine being in there. But you decide when to like open and enter that room, and make sure you close the door when you leave. But but to get there, you have to build that with like practices and stuff to be able to not separate it, but give it a container, which you properly visit in the appropriate times. That's what I'm working towards.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I think you'll realize when the appropriate times are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so many times people, first off, aren't even aware of it, like not even aware of that there is a container or that there's a door somewhere for that container, completely oblivious. But I think if you can bring awareness to the fact that my life is steering me in that direction again for whatever reason, I need to go back into that space and reevaluate and evolve. And because that's the other thing too, everything that you're going to go through, everything that you're going to process and feel, the universe is going to say, congratulations, you did a wonderful job. Now I'm going to rotate and flip all of that so you get the opportunity to look at it from another angle and another side and learn about it even more on a deeper level and all that kind of stuff. So it never goes anywhere. It's
reaping the rewards of the work and getting the fruit from the labor, really. I want to learn how to share the process without ever being negative or bringing negativity or potentially bringing people's days down. That's something fun with social media, is thinking about, like, you never know what mind frame people are in, and then they're going to stumble upon you. You don't want to depress them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you show up in light, but also real. You know, you're not going to be fake and be like, I'm never sad. No, you know when I'm sad because I've disappeared from social media for a whole week. Thank you for respecting this container, you know? So
show up a little dark sometimes. I think it's good. It's good for people to see. You don't have to go super dark and sad.
But
and
a little
depressing.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's good for people to see because it's needed, right? It's going to inspire people to go into that space for themselves and maybe even recognize that space in themselves.
And a fun way to do that is with humor. And I'm really funny. So I would love to maybe make some little bits that bring the suffering to light, but with like, isn't that funny how bad life sucks? Like, whoa, she goes through it too. We all do.
Got another question for you. How do you fight the stigma attached with all of this stuff? So you're walking around with crystals and dreadlocks and all these other type of things that you're kind of, do you know what I mean, openly embracing in your life. Obviously, it's just an integrated part of who you are. But how do you battle the stigma attached with it at times? Because there's obviously a stigma attached.
I just did a Snapchat story about this today, and the secret is to go, shh, or smile. You know, like, honestly, the dread comes before the dread. That's what my saying for dreadlocks, but it goes with the whole journey of your expression. You're going to dread the journey of like expressing yourself and think, oh my gosh, what are they going to think of me? My mom's going to hate it. No, they're going to just, the worries are way worse than the reality. You will have haters in the reality, but there's way more people who are cheering you on because you are empowering them by being your empowered self. So showing up and just, oh yeah, people ask me this. It's hard to say. They're like, how do you just start growing your body hair and not care? Like, how do you just do that? Well, sometimes I can't. Like, I have to wear makeup sometimes when my skin feels bad still because I feel embarrassed. I still have my insecurities, but let's just look at your insecurities and let that wash over you, because really, what difference does it make what people think? Why should you let what one woman says keep you from being yourself, which could affect positively a lot of people? That's potentially just an example, you know, if somebody's afraid because of what their mom might say, you know. I don't know. There's just so many rewards that come from going on your own path. I like to call it rainbow sheep instead of the black sheep.
Rainbow sheep?
Yeah.
That's good.
Or like sparkle sheep.
I like rainbow sheep. That's good. Well, thank you. I really, really appreciate you taking the time.
This was jam-packed.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff in. Yeah. That's very, very nice. When do you have plans to ever come back to Utah, or are you just going to go and then see where the wind takes you?
Well, my family and business run out of Utah, so this will always be my home base. But if I fall in love with Hawaii, I'll move there. I'll get my cats there and my fiance and my life. But we really want to buy land in California and grow our own community eventually. But yeah, the vision right now is mostly live in my highest self and choose the right. I love that phrase. Because Utah Mormons. Yeah. But for real, like my grandma, you know, she's really worried about me choosing the right and being good. I'm like, just so you know, like, I do.
Is he coming with you to Hawaii?
Well, he might come later. He's going to spend the summer acting in LA. He's an actor. He's been in movies and commercials and all this stuff, but he's feeling called to do that again. And I think with his dreadlocks right now and the times, it's going to go good. So he'll fill that out for a while. I'll be in Hawaii for a while and then we'll meet up, or this is kind of the dynamics, how we always go.
Cool. Well, next time you guys are together and we're in the same space somewhere at the right time, then I'd love to have you guys both come back on.
Well, he's coming in about a week for a couple of days. If we could fit it in, that'd be fun. But maybe next time around.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what's the easiest way for people to find you guys and find all your stuff?
Wired and Stoned on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to go shopping, getwiredandstone.com.
Wonderful. Thank you
And I'll
so
give
much.
a coupon though.
Go ahead.
Wired and Stoner for 30% off.
Beautiful.
Okay, cool.
Everybody go have a beautiful, wonderful day.
You can get stuck in that like mystical world, but you have to apply it to real life so that you can bring the magic back and like pass it on to people. Not to blow your mind, but it's sort of like God, like the God equation. You'll have the awareness and then you'll have the knowledge like of what to do. But in between that is the motivation. If you want to be somebody sharing your vision with the world, you do have to show up a lot. You can't just be visionary all the time.
Thanks for listening, everybody. And thank you to entheozen.com. Nutritional solutions for balancing the mind and body. Remember, when checking out, enter that promo code ENERGYIS and save 10% on your total purchase.